I'm super excited for our next guest. I'm a huge fan. He is one of the most talented actors of our generation. Please welcome Ron Perlman. Have a seat. Hi, welcome to Kansas City.
Oh shit, I thought this was Minneapolis. Where are my people?
It's true. It's true. There's so much to talk about with
First of all, I gotta say, Kansas City, man, you people are awesome. I had the best day yesterday of any one of these I've ever attended because, well, the amount of love was overwhelming. But not just the love, but I mean, people really, really knew everything that there was to know about me. A couple of moles I'm having operations on that I didn't even know I had. I don't want to go into too much detail, you know. You probably just ate breakfast. Are there any kids in the room? Because I swear a lot.
They're probably okay with it.
Fuck them.
You know, most actors are lucky to have one.
You know, you kids, you're gonna have to learn it somewhere. May as well be from fucking Uncle Ron. I'm sorry.
Listen, I'm enjoying myself. I'm a fan too. Most actors are lucky to have like one franchise that is really garners like such a fandom. But between Hellboy and Sons and you know, all these other things in your career, you have so many projects people are passionate about. When did you first realize like conventions existed and these guys were here following along your career?
Well, I just, I'm always, I'm literally, truly, I think the reason why I've worked so much and so hard is because of all the years where, you know, I was in the business and the phone wasn't ringing and I actually began to identify myself as the invisible man, you know, like no one knows I exist, no one gives a shit. And whenever opportunity came its way, I just grabbed onto it. And I got used to doing that, which is why if you look at my filmography, you'll see that I'll do anything for money. And I'm not proud of that, but you know, just the way it is. But anyway, when I come out to places like this, and I realize how I'm kind of not invisible, it always is a shocker to me. I mean, seriously, you know, at my old age, and you know, however many of these I do, I just am continually blown away by that whole Sally Field, you like me. You seem to really like me.
They really like you, right, guys?
I love you.
You've had a great collaborative partnership with Guillermo del Toro throughout your career. When did you guys first meet?
So Guillermo had never made a movie before. It was 1990. And out of the blue, he sends me this letter, beautiful handwritten letter, accompanied by this very, very weird vampire movie that was going to be made in Mexico. It was going to be his first film. And it was one of these things where you talk about thinking you were invisible and then all of a sudden realizing somebody's been watching every move you've ever made. It was him. And he was in the letter chronicling, you know, what this project meant to him and what that project did in terms of his aesthetic. And it was like this irresistible love letter from a heterosexual man, you know? And I just want to point that out right away. I got no problem, you know, with anyway, how you identify yourself is not, you know. But he was heterosexual, and I had to. I mean, I had to deal with it. It was just like, my God, things like this don't come along ever, you know, especially just not commonplace. Comes to Los Angeles, this big fat Mexican dude, and he wasn't as big then. He was 26 years old, baby-faced kid. But we went to this Indian restaurant that he chose, and he said,
My friend, I have to ask you a very important question. Do you mind if we start with a dessert?
and I knew right then and there we were gonna get along. And I ended up doing the movie and ended up, you know, jump-starting, certainly a collaboration. We've now done like 6 titles together. But a friendship, like we know, we're like, it's brothers from a different mother, you know. We're like the opposite ends of the same coin, you know. Where, you know, we complete each other in a very heterosexual way. Just want to keep pointing that out.
And with Hellboy, that was a project that was in development for several years before it finally got greenlit. Is that correct? And,
yeah.
And with the source material, I read a little bit about he would give you comics and but you kind of were not willing to go there until you knew the project was going to be made. Is that correct?
Well, I was totally willing to go there, but you know, this was going to be a big jump for Guillermo. This was going to be a big studio franchise comic book thing. And they don't go for unknown character actors who kind of are known for living on the fringes in a situation like that. And so when Guillermo told me, I found this character named Hellboy, and he took me to this comic book store on Sunset Boulevard in Los Angeles, and there was like a life-size sculpture of Hellboy. And he said,
Ron, meet Hellboy. Hellboy, be right.
And he said, in a perfect world, that I would be Hellboy. And I said, Guillermo, we don't live in a perfect world. I so love and appreciate the gesture of wanting to think we live in a perfect world and wanting to think that you could get away with getting me $100 million budget or whatever, but that's just not going to happen. What I do is I recommend that you get real and make your movie, and I'll come on opening night and I'll cheer you on and all this stuff. And I was just being pragmatic, and the extraordinary thing about what he did at that point is he goes,
Yes, Ron, you are right. I'm going to do that.
and for 7 years he said to the studios,
I'm only making the movie with Ron Perlman. You don't like it? Go fuck yourself.
and after 5 years, Universal showed him the door, and then he went around for 2 more years looking for a studio and kept singing this song, even though I kept saying, don't you get it? It's not going to be me. Just make the movie. It's too good to not do. And he said,
Oh, yes, you're right. That's what I'm going to do. I'll make the movie with The Rock.
and then eventually he made Blade 2. He put me in Blade 2 to kind of showcase what I would look like in a kind of a big studio kind of movie. And Blade 2 had this mammoth opening on opening weekend. And on the Monday after the opening weekend, everybody in Hollywood said, okay, we want to work with you. What do you want to do? He goes,
Well, I have 2 conditions. I want to do Hellboy,
okay, we have no problem with that. We love comic book movies.
and it has to be Ron Perlman.
And some schmuck gave him the money.
That's such dedication.
7 years. And I don't know, I mean, I've lived in Hollywood. I mean, you know, it's not the most honorable place on the face of the earth. People don't make those kinds of sacrifices, because, I mean, he could have made the movie 100 times over if he had just not doggedly stuck to this concept. And yet he stuck not only by me, but he's stuck by his own aesthetic vision of why make the movie unless I can make it the way I want to make it. And I've never seen that before, and I've never seen it since. And so, you know, I am the recipient of something very, very unique. It's like almost like a unicorn, you know?
And once the movie was greenlit,
You didn't think I could get unicorn in a sentence, did you? I mean that in a completely heterosexual way.
we understand. So once the movie was greenlit, you cracked open the comics and you fell in love with the character?
Yeah, I said to myself, he said, you should start reading the comic books. I said, I'm not going to read them because you're already in love with the idea of me as him. If I fall in love with the idea of me as him, and then find out that Nick Cage is doing it or somebody, then I'm really going to be in a rubber room, you know. So I refused to invest myself. When he finally told me he got it done, then I just went out and read everything and hung out with Mignola and picked his brain, and we set about collaborating, you know, what turned into Hellboy 1 and Hellboy 2.
That's awesome. So I know you guys want to talk to Ron too. Line up. There's a mic here, and I think a mic right there. And while they get lined up, why don't you tell us how Sons came about?
Well, Sons came about right at the time when Hellboy 2 was coming out. And Hellboy 2 was distinguished even more so by the fact that Guillermo had just made Pan's Labyrinth. And Pan's Labyrinth got on every single top 10 list in the entire Western world. I mean, Europe, Asia, Eastern and Western. America, United States, North America, South America. That movie was a masterpiece. And everybody wanted to see, okay, what is he going to do next? And what came next was Hellboy 2. So I was the beneficiary of all of this attention and love, unlike the first Hellboy movie, which was big enough, but not nearly as scrutinized. And right at that point, they were looking for Clay Morrow on Sons, and I sat down with Kurt. That was the last civilized conversation he and I ever had. But I ended up doing that show for 6 years.
All right.
I'll let you guys figure that shit out.
Yeah. I'm not going to go there. Go.
All right, making sure it's on. I kind of have two questions because one of them's from my mom, and she insisted I ask.
You have a question for your mom?
Well, from my mom.
Oh, from your mom. Okay.
Yeah. One, since you've been in KC most of the weekend, what barbecue have you tried and which ones, and did you like it? And two, what role did you pass on and mainly go, fuck, why did I take that role?
Oh, I've never passed on anything, man. All you gotta do is look at my IMDb, man. You say,
True.
This dude will do anything, man. He has zero standards whatsoever. Roles have passed on me, but I never passed on anything.
And have you had barbecue this weekend?
They served barbecue here yesterday for lunch, and I was planning on going out last night and doing a barbecue run because I've talked to 25 Uber drivers, 32 cab drivers, 15 doormen at hotels around the town, and everybody has their own version of what the best barbecue. So can we get a consensus? What's the best barbecue?
Gates!
See, that's the problem.
There's no consensus.
That's the problem. Is that there's no consensus. I guess it's like it's a free for all.
All of it. Okay, great. All right, we're gonna go right here in the middle.
I had a Snickers bar for dinner last night.
It's a little hard to see, but this guy right here.
Oh.
Hi.
Hi, Ron. I'm Sidney Storm. I'm from the Nuns of Anarchy. We got a picture yesterday.
Oh yeah, man.
Yeah, we're the rulers of bad habits, and thank you. You mentioned nobody ever came up with that pun before, and that just is very validating. Anyway, but my question isn't about Sons. It's actually about that time spent in the makeup chair with Hellboy and back when you did like Beauty and the Beast. Which of the two took longer to sit in the chair and get all the makeup done?
They were exactly the same on a normal day. So 4 hours on a normal day. And they both were 6.5 hours on non-normal days. And I don't know whether that's an unwritten rule, but that's what happens on every time I do one of these makeup jobs. It takes 4 hours, no more, no less. And then if you have a special day where you have to like feature the hands or the pectorals or whatever, it's 6.5 hours.
Oh, wow. Thank you so much.
Thank you. And now over here. Hi.
Hey, Ron.
So,
What's your favorite cuss word, number one?
my favorite curse word?
Yes.
You know, they've taken a couple of my favorites off the market, you know.
Oh, okay, well, do what you can.
I'm not allowed to even say them out loud.
Is Peg Bundy really as sexy?
And I thought
up front?
if Trump was going to accomplish anything, it's this whole political correctness bullshit, right?
Yeah, I know. 2020, buddy, I'm there for you. I'll be your campaign manager.
You know.
Yeah. But Peg Bundy is really as sexy up front, you know, on Sons of Anarchy.
Is she sexy up front?
Yeah.
She's not bad from behind either, actually.
And Hellboy 3, what's going on with that, brother?
Dead, man. It's dead. We tried,
It's
and we tried, and we tried, and we tried.
hi.
How you doing? I thought of you first as soon as I found out cable was going to make it to the big screen.
Can you believe they dialed the wrong number?
Is that true?
Yeah, man. They meant to call me, but for some strange reason, they called Josh Brolin.
I just discovered today, actually.
I
who
mean,
they
I don't
casted.
get
I
that
didn't
at
pay
all.
attention.
Like Josh needs to fucking work, you know?
All right, thanks, man.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi. I just wanted to say, you killed Piney, and what the fuck?
I ask myself that all the time. Jesus, what was I thinking when I killed Piney? Somebody had to kill him. Talk with the fucking tricycle and everything. You know, Jesus Christ. Annoying. He was annoying. He kept attacking me. He didn't like me very much. I don't know if you noticed that. He had it coming, motherfucker.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, Ron. What kind of projects are you working on right now?
I'm doing a TV show for a new startup network called Crackle. The show is called Startup. It's already has one season on the air, which I'm not involved in. They introduced me in the second season, and I'm working on that right now. And I have a movie coming out this month called Chuck, about the fighter Chuck Wepner, who had his moment in the sun fighting Ali and went the distance. And that's Liev Schreiber plays Chuck. I play his manager. And then I have my own production company, and I have one picture in post-production, 2 pictures in pre-production, which we'll be doing in New York. In this month we start. You're not with the IRS, are you? Did I just get audited?
Maybe.
You want to see receipts? I got receipts. Man. Hang on. Where's my receipts?
Do you have a preference, film or television? Do you care?
I find film and television to be kind of interchangeable because they're the exact same process in terms of how your day starts and ends, you know. You get in a van in the morning, you go to work, you film out of sequence all day long, you break for lunch, you come back, you film some more, you go home. And that's the same in television and in films. So the actual sensation of the difference of the two is kind of non-existent. You know, the outer trappings, of course, are quite different. If you're doing a big tentpole movie, like a franchise movie like Hellboy, that's a finite amount of time on usually on location. So you're taken away from the reality of your life and turned into this, you know, complete fantasy world, which is why so many people leave their wives and husbands and get into all kinds of problems with drugs and alcohol. No, I didn't mean to go there, did I? That's kind of a pall fell over the room there. It's a bummer, man. But where was I?
They're pretty interchangeable in the
Yeah.
structure. Yeah. We can go over here. Hi.
Yeah, I was wondering if you were done with being Ron the narrator in Fallout games, or if you ever plan on doing that again.
It's one of those things, man. You know, I don't call the shots on that one, but they've done 5 Fallouts now, and I've been involved in all of them. So they keep calling me. If they keep calling me, I keep showing up. You know, that's how that works.
Thank you. Hi.
So you've done like live action and you've done voice work. Do you have some kind of preference?
No, I don't have a preference. I really love acting. I love like playing other characters. I find it to be like, some people like jigsaw puzzles, some people like crossword puzzles, but I find it to be like solving a puzzle. You know, the act of figuring out who the character is, what he sounds like, what his background was, you know, how he moves through the world, what his value systems are. It's all stuff that engages your intellect and your imagination, and it's interpretive because it comes from something that a writer first conceived of. So there's this whole, you know, myriad of things that you do when you're acting that just make me happy. I mean, you know, I just love doing it, which is why I say yes to almost everything that comes in front of me. The thing that I like about voice acting is that's the most result-oriented of all the performing arts. You know, you show up, you have an hour to record a show, and so when you show up, you're gonna go for the performance. There's no discussion, there's no rehearsal, there's no gestation period. You know, it's straight for, like, you know, the gold ring. And I like that because it makes you act on a very kind of instinctive, primal level, and not second guess yourself and stuff. If you go too far, the director says, okay, pull it back a little bit. If you don't go far enough, it's the opposite. So it's lots of fun.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, my question's about Sons of Anarchy. Playing the character of Clay, how was it being somebody that someone loved to hate and hated to love at the same time?
You know, when you're playing a character, you don't have the luxury of getting to judge him. You know, your job is to figure out who he is and why he does what he does, and create a support system that will justify whatever his behavior entails. Now with Clay, his behavior entailed a lot of stuff that was questionable and even like, holy shit, I mean, how many lines has he crossed in this one single episode? Right. But that was more for the audience to judge how many lines. For me, the exercise was, who is he, and what's driving him? And what's driving him is he's convinced that he is the best leader that this family, which is this motorcycle club world, could possibly have, because he's fearless, he's ruthless, and he doesn't care how many toes he has to step on in order to protect his loved ones. And he doesn't care what the government thinks of him or what society thinks of him in his zeal to provide independence, financial independence to his family. We're gonna make a living, and I don't give a shit what the laws are, I don't give a shit what your values are. We're gonna make a living and we're gonna be independent. We don't have to depend on anybody except ourselves. So I always thought Clay was a hero. And you know, if you watch some of the ways he became heroic, you may have a different interpretation of it than me, but that's what makes it fun to watch.
Awesome.
And
Thank you.
Thank you. And as an actor, you can't really, even if you're playing a character that the audience may view as the, antagonist, you can't view them from a negative perspective at all.
Look, when you get the gig, you say, okay, I'm the bad guy. I mean, but that's the last time you have the luxury of deciding good, bad, right, wrong. Like, you just got to you got to find out who the guy is and why he is the way he is, and turn him into somebody who seems to exist in reality, even though he doesn't.
He was a great character. Yes.
Thank you.
Hi. First of all, I just wanted to say I loved Hellboy in the most heterosexual way possible.
I am so glad you said that. Because you beat me right to it.
My question is, how heavy...
Let's have a hand for this guy. Let's have a hand for anybody who didn't love Hellboy in a heterosexual way, too. All right, yeah, no. I feel better now.
How heavy was the right hand on Hellboy?
Huh?
The right hand, the one where he puppeteered.
What was the question?
How heavy was it?
So there were 3 right hands. There was one that I just wore when it was just going to hang by my side. Then there was one that I was able to control because it was rubber, so I could do this with it and make a fist. And then there was a radioactively controlled one where the fingers did this or did this or did this kind of thing, and that was controlled by a puppeteer who was standing a few feet away from me. That was heavy because that had like gears and wires and stuff like that, and that was communicated with through in a robotic kind of a way. The other ones were light. And like if I had to punch somebody, that was usually the rubber one where I was able to turn it into a fist and just boom and then go back to that was light.
Okay, thank you.
But you wouldn't want to be in the way of it. Don't get me wrong.
Wasn't that light? Thank you. Hi.
So I have a question about Book of Life. What was it like getting into the role of Zabulba, and will you reprise the role for the sequel?
If there's a sequel, I'd be happy to. I loved, so I described my experience of meeting and working with Guillermo del Toro when he was this young, unknown Mexican filmmaker who had nothing but enthusiasm and potential and incredible, what's the word when you're around somebody and they're sick and you're contagious. And so Guillermo found another version of himself in this guy, Jorge Gutierrez, another 26-year-old Mexican who was making his first film. And Guillermo shepherded him through the whole studio system, got the movie financed, produced by Fox, and produced the movie himself. And it was almost as if having lightning strike twice, because he says to Jorge, you got to consider putting Ron in the movie. And Jorge says, And so it was like working with a young Guillermo del Toro for a second time, because he had the exact same kind of wiring, and he was another, forgive me, Jorge, but another young fat Mexican, and and I mean that in the most loving way, because these guys just love to live life at their fullest, including laughing and loving and writing and directing and eating, and that's kind of how I describe myself. I mean, I don't know when to put the brakes on. That was phenomenal, and I loved my relationship with Jorge on that movie. Was pure joy. Loved what I was doing. Continued to encourage me to go further with it, go bigger with it. Go as far as I wanted with it, and it was just a beautiful collaboration.
Thank you, Ron fucking Perlman.
Right on.
Thank you. And that is one of my favorite movies. I absolutely love it. Hi.
Hi, Ron. I'm so sad we're not going to see you except in our minds as Cable, because you are Cable. We'll just face it now.
My favorite tweet, because I noticed I didn't know who Cable was. I'm not a comic book guy.
He's you.
even though I work in comic book movies and shit. I don't follow them. I have no. But I see in the Twitterverse that people are like Ron Perlman, Cable, and this thing is starting to like get a life of its own. And I'm trying not to comment, because just in case Ryan Reynolds is reading these tweets, he doesn't need some asshole going, "Hey man, what are you thinking over there, Ryan?" But my favorite, finally one day I weighed in and I said, come to think of it, Cable should be playing me.
My question was.
And I don't know whether Ryan saw that and that queered the deal, but
If you, in a perfect world, if you got to choose any character, what character would you choose to play?
Well, I can't answer that question because I've played characters that are beyond anything I might have imagined and that I might have aspired to, including like right now, the show Crackle that I'm doing, the show Startup. Like the character is deliciously complicated. The character I just finished doing for Amazon on Hand of God was among my favorites because it really took advantage of where I was in life in my mid-60s. This guy who has this power, but is hit with these forces that he has no control over. So he's used to living this life of where he's in control, and he finally goes into this place where he has no control, and he's being led around by some higher force, which is meant to be God. That character blew my mind. Getting to play him blew my mind. It was like playing King Lear, and for an actor of my age, in my evolution, Lear is like if you're younger, you want to play Hamlet, but if you get older, Lear is like the Holy Grail. And this was like playing Lear, but getting paid a lot of money to do it. So I've had more than Clay Morrow was a motherfucker of a character. Hellboy was, need I say more? How could I possibly dream of playing characters better than the ones I've already played? I just can't do it.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hey, Ron. I was wondering, at one point, Guillermo del Toro was slated to be the director of the Hobbit movie. Did he ever come up to you at some point while he was still attached to it and say, "I got the perfect role for you"?
Yes, I was supposed to be in both Hobbit movies when del Toro was doing it as the bear.
That's perfect.
When he dropped out, I dropped out.
All right, thank you.
That's loyalty, both ways. He showed you loyalty and you showed him. Yep.
Hi, thank you for being here. With Hellboy, you worked very closely with a lot of practical creature effect artists and technicians. From your perspective of the actor, what made working with them enjoyable and or hell?
It's never hell. It's always pure fascination, number one. I mean, these guys are whack talent. I mean, like, holy shit, It's a combination of, taking over your parents' garage and turning it into a chemical laboratory and creating all these creatures. And while you're doing it, you're breathing in these fumes, which is kind of making you fucked up. And then you're a genius on top of it. So, that's who those guys are. They're fucked up geniuses. And I'm basically in the chair watching them do their magic. I have nothing to do with it except just sit there, try to sit there as still as possible so I don't fuck up their process. And sit there and marvel at and they so love what they do. I mean, every one of them just like they're so geeky. They're truly geeks, man. And so I'm a fanboy when it comes to those guys. And I've worked with the best. I mean, Rick Baker is in a class of his own. Mike Elizalde, who did, I first met him on Blade 2 and did both Hellboy movies. And I mean, amazing people.
Thank you very much. And by the way, your voice is amazing.
Thank you. I would like to thank Johnny Walker Black and Hoya de Nicaragua, Dark Cigars, for whatever voice I have left.
Hi.
Hi, I'm a Fallout fan from way back, and in Fallout 4, you didn't do exactly Ron the narrator. You were the news anchor, and you didn't get to say your signature line. Was that disappointing for you, or was it nice to do something a little different?
Actually, if you listen closely, I'm like a newscaster in that thing rather than a narrator. When he realizes that he's reporting on a world that's under siege, he says the phrase, "War never changes."
I didn't catch that. I'll have to go listen.
Huh?
I didn't catch that, so I'll have to go listen again.
Yeah, listen close, because it's in a different context, but he does say it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi, Ron. I got a question. If you could be any superhero, who would you be?
I just love being Hellboy, man. If I was going to play any other superhero after that, he'd have to measure up. He'd have to fill some pretty big shoes. And let me tell you why I say that, man. You guys have been hanging out with me now for about 30 minutes, right? You know I'm the biggest underachiever you've ever met in your life. You can imagine what a slob I am. Hellboy lived with 55 cats. So just think about what that room must have smelled like. All he wanted to do was eat pizza, right? And watch Marx Brothers movies. That's all he wanted to do. He did not want to save the world. He did not want to, be responsible for anybody's well-being. He was the biggest underachiever you've ever seen. And all he wanted to do was rank on his buddies, just like guys do, when they were, just trash talk. So there it was, man. Ron, Hellboy, Ron. I mean, how could I do better than that?
Thank you.
Thank you. Hi.
Hey, Ron. So you've been in more Fallouts than anyone. Like you were there from minute one. So what was that like when you were first approached by that? Did you think it was going to be anything like this, or was it just a paycheck?
Which one?
Point? Fallout, when you first started out in there.
Did you know you'd have such longevity with that?
With what?
Fallout?
Oh, Fallout. No, I thought it was a piece of shit.
You aren't
A lame-ass video game. Some more guys think they're going to kind of reinvent the wheel. Go ahead. Go ahead with your bad selves. And I thought it was literally a paycheck. And not a very big one, actually. But, I was raising a couple of kids. Like I said, I'd do anything. And then when they called me for the second one, since I'm not a gamer and since I don't follow that stuff, they were telling me, in the pantheon of games, this was huge. And I went, this piece of shit? And then there's a third one and a fourth one and a fifth one. I'm going, hey, what do I know? I mean, literally. Don't ask my opinion about anything.
It worked out. Hi.
Hi, Ron. I have a deep cut question for you. What was it like working with Robert Urich on Ice Pirates?
Me and Robert Urich became real good buds, man. He was a rest in peace. Died way too young. Yes. Big-hearted dude, fun-loving guy, and it's one of those things. We kept checking each other out on the set. He was a much bigger star than me. He was the biggest star on the set. But he kept kind of looking at me as I would throw my zingers in, during rehearsals or whatever, and say, we need to spend some time together. And we did. We ended up spending time together. We did another movie together a few years after that. And then we lost him. And big loss. I miss him every day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Hi.
Hi. You obviously have a room here of people that geek out about you, and I was wondering what you geek out about.
Yeah.
Porn.
That's fair.
She's shaking her head.
I can appreciate that.
I mean, who doesn't love porn? Come on. I'm sorry, what was the question?
I'm not. I'm
What do
not
you
sure
geek
I
out
can
about?
Tweet that. What do you geek out about? What do you?
I don't have a whole lot of people who are still walking the planet that I geek out over. There are a few. Anthony Hopkins, if I was in his presence, I would probably, and I have turned into that guy when I've been around my heroes, which were Marlon Brando. I did a movie with him, and I got a chance to hang with Sinatra for his charity work, for his golf tournament that he threw, and Frank, he was very willing to have a conversation with me. It's just that I was unable. Same with Marlon. You know, I mean, I just, what's wrong with you? What's that? I'm fucking talking to you, man.
Thank you. We have time for one last question, so we'll go right here.
Make it good, motherfucker.
Okay, so Ron, we all...
That's a good start right there.
We all remember Teen Titans, the cartoon series, when you played Slade. Would you ever, like, if they made another good one besides Teen Titans Go, would you ever reprise that role?
Absolutely, man. First of all, the woman who directed all those, Andrea Romano. I don't know if you watched the names go by at the end. The unsung heroes of animation. There's about 5 or 6 people who direct all of the animated shows you've ever seen. And the woman who started me out, gave me the very first job in animation, being a voice actor, was Andrea Romano. She used to be the woman at Warner Brothers. And the role she got me was this police detective on the show called Bonkers. I don't know if you remember Bonkers. But me and Andrea hit it off big time, and she understood how much I loved being a voice actor and kept bringing me in and bringing me in and bringing me in. Anytime she worked, I worked. And that's how Slade happened. And I fondly remember all those days, all those sessions, and I would be happy to revisit them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Did you guys enjoy this last hour? Thank you so much, Ron.
I sure did. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. One more big round of applause for Ron Perlman.